Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is John Viglotti, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for today's battery and precious metals presentations. We'll kick off today with a live presentation from Guanajuato, silver. And before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. And if you're interested in scheduling a meeting with Guanajuato Silver, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You'll be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome James Anderson. He's the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Guanajuato Silver, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol GSVRF and on the TSX under the symbol GSVR. Welcome, James.
Thanks very much for the introduction, and thanks very much for OTC Capital Markets for hosting this. Thanks very much for everyone who is out there viewing the presentation. The presentation is going to be about 30 minutes, and I'll leave some time to try and answer a few questions along the way. And as John pointed out, it's relatively easy to reach out to us if you'd like a little bit more interaction, if you'd like some more details, if you'd like some more questions answered. We are a public company that prides itself on our openness, so happy to do that. John, you said that we were in Guanajuato in the introduction, and I am in fact in Guanajuato, Mexico. I am at our offices at Cata, which is part of our Valenciana mine complex. 3 of our 4 mines are within about a 40-minute drive of where I am right now, and about 150 yards away from me is one of our mining production facilities. So you'll see a few pictures of that as I go through the presentation. I just wanted to make one other point as well. There's a number of different, I think there's 12 companies presenting today on this platform. There's a number of battery metal and precious metal companies. We are a little bit unique in that we are a mining company, not an exploration company. We have 4 active mines, and we're very proud of how quickly that's happened. We have a silver focus. A lot of the silver mining companies produce a lot of lead and zinc as opposed to precious metals. A little over 50%, about 55% of our production is silver, and about 35% is gold, and the remaining bits are lead and zinc. So that too sets us apart, but we are very bullish on the silver story, and I just want to start the presentation with a couple comments on that. I think everybody appreciates at least the argument that silver maintains its value despite currency fluctuations, and as a junior, as the poor man's gold, if you will, it has historically been a defense against currency debasement, which I think it continues to be. But the silver story today, I think, is more of an industrial metal story. In the 21st century, as this slide points out, every electronic action, whether it's in a cell phone or a computer, requires silver for the electronic connections and the electrical connections within that device. So there's an enormous amount of silver that's used electronically currently. The other important growth feature of silver demand comes from solar power. So the photovoltaic cells that are used in solar panels require a lot of silver. Now, over the last 10 years or so, the amount of silver that's been used in each solar panel has been going down because the technology has gotten profoundly better. However, that's about to change starting last month in China, especially. They have a different protocol where they're going to be using really 2 different silver screens to absorb the solar energy, and this will effectively double the use of silver within each solar panel. Now, it will also make less the amount of area that's necessary for a lot of these solar panels. But you can see on this screen, these are all satellite images, but they are, 9 kilometers, 17 kilometers, 5 kilometers. These are solar parks in China, in Mexico, where I am, and in Egypt. These are being constructed all over the world. Currently, at least in 2021, which is the last year that we have effective data for, solar panels were using about 12% of the entire world's silver production. That number is expected to grow to about 25%. Now, what that might displace, I don't know. That's very difficult to say. So suffice to say that silver demand is set to increase dramatically vis-a-vis the solar panel story over the next 2 or 3 years. So we feel that mining silver and being in the silver business is a good place to be. Therefore, we have constructed this company in a very brief period of time to be Mexico's fastest growing silver company. 2 years ago, we had no production in our company. Last year at this time, we had 1 mine and 1 production facility. And you can see in this slide the exponential growth of the company. Last August, we purchased 3 additional mines and 2 additional production facilities and ended the year at a run rate of about 3.5 million silver equivalent ounces per year. Our annual projected number in 2023 will be plus or minus 4.8 million silver equivalent ounces. We will be providing specific guidance to the market on those numbers and more cost numbers within the next few weeks. Let me just hit the next button again here. And you can see, the companies like ours are often very keen to give production prognostications, but you can see the ramped up growth that we've managed to do in this company, again, in a very, very short period of time. So from Q4 in 2021, going from 235,000 silver equivalent ounces to our fourth quarter, which we just announced about a week ago or 10 days ago, to 836,000. We've drawn in another bar for the first quarter. It is our plan to be able to better again the fourth quarter numbers, and we're quite excited about the growth that we are managing to achieve. Not quite month over month, but certainly quarter over quarter. And we're doing that while driving down costs. The mines that we have purchased are all mines that have been in production for many, many years, but were underinvested in by the previous owners. So that has required us to spend a fair bit of money on additional CapEx, which has kept our all-in sustaining costs high. But I think a cash cost number and how we've driven down actual operating cash costs quarter over quarter, I think we're doing a very good job at that. And I think that that's the best metric to use when looking at and when comparing Guanajuato Silver with other silver producing companies right now. So this is the city that I'm in right now. It's the name of the city is called Guanajuato. The name of the Mexican state is also called Guanajuato. There's about 200,000 people who live here. It has a 450-year history of mining. It's also, as you can see from this picture, it's a beautiful city. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. For hundreds of years, really, the mining that's taken place here has generated enormous wealth and has created this lovely city. And then from a 21st century standpoint, there are nice restaurants, there's nice cafes, there's parks. It's a very livable city. And why that's important is that it has allowed us to attract top Mexican mining talent to the company. So if you're a young mining engineer or a young geologist with a young family, living, let's say, on the outskirts of Guanajuato in a nice apartment, that is often a much better solution for your living arrangements than living in a dusty city in Chihuahua trying to mine there instead. So Somos Guanajuato, we are Guanajuato. We employ currently in Mexico about 1,400 people, either directly or contractors. And of those, 100% of our staff in Mexico are Mexican. We feel that this is a unique situation within the mining industry. Oftentimes Canadian companies, American companies, Australian companies, British companies come here. They hire a lot of Mexicans, but they keep about a 10 or 15% level of management as expats. We do not do that, and we consider that to be a material difference and a material advantage that our company has. So looking at Guanajuato, this is a little outline of the city. You can see 4 of our assets here. Pinguico to the south was our first project in this area. It is a past producing mine. It was actually listed on the New York Stock Exchange 110 years ago. It was 110 years ago the highest grade mine in this area. However, Pinguico for us has become much more of an exploration project versus the mines of El Cubo, Valenciana, and San Ignacio. Those are the 3 mines that are right in the Guanajuato city area that I'll discuss first. And then we have a 4th operating mine in the state of Durango, further north of us, maybe 1,000 kilometers further north, called Topia, and we'll talk about that as well. So first of all, El Cubo. So a year and a half ago, we paid Endeavour Silver about $15 million. That's $15 million for the mine and the processing plant here at El Cubo. And just to put that in perspective, the last time that El Cubo changed hands, this has been a mine for about 140 years, but the last time that El Cubo changed hands was in 2012, when Endeavour Silver paid $200 million for it. They paid $200 million for the mine, and then they built most of the plant that you see here. So our ability to buy these assets at distressed prices, at pennies on the dollar, again, we think is a material difference and a material benefit to our shareholders and prospective shareholders. The plant has a 45,000 ton per month capacity, of which we are currently using about 30,000 tons. So we have excess capacity to expand the mine and additional, potential mining operations in the district. Here you have a look at the inside of it. We spent after we spent the $15 million purchasing the mine and the plant, we spent about $5 million refurbishing it. So it is clean, dry, organized. That is a mantra that we have for all of our operations. It really does look like this. And again, this operation is about a 40-minute drive from where I'm at as we speak. We'll just talk about the mine at El Cubo, or the 2 mines at El Cubo. The southern part has always been known as Villalpando, the Villalpando mine, and the north is Santa Cecilia. These 2 mines were never connected when Endeavour owned it and with previous owners. One of the things that we did last summer was we built about a 250-meter ramp here. It cost us about $250,000 to do that. But it has had instant savings for us. So material that's leaving Santa Cecilia, rather than leaving a portal in the mine and driving about 6.5 kilometers around a small mountain and then back down to the plant that you just saw, we are now able to drive about 2 kilometers through the mine and to the plant, again, that you just saw in the previous slide. So this has enabled us to reduce costs by about $5 a ton in material at Santa Cecilia, and it's just a good illustration of some of the CapEx that we are putting into all of our mines right now in order to make them more efficient and more cost effective. So we'll go on to the mine that I am basically sitting on top of. This is one of the great silver mines throughout the history of the Americas. There was a time in the late 1700s, this mining operation that we call Valenciana, the Valenciana Mines Complex, is about 4 kilometers long. So we'll call it about 3 miles in length along a structural trend that the Mexicans call Veta Madre, or the mother vein. So in the late 1700s, from Valenciana, the miners here were producing about 25% of the entire world's silver. And I can tell you there is still lots and lots and lots to find and discover and explore for in this mine. We are currently mining at Los Pozos. Cata is labeled here on the map as well on this cross section. The Cata plant is where I am right now, and we are in the process of reestablishing the Cata shaft, which is right here, which has been in operation for several decades. It needs a little bit of refurbishment, and we feel that we'll be able to get that operating within just the next 2 or 3 months. Currently, what we use are ramps which exit portals of the mine in several places, so we can get mining, get started, but it will be much more efficient and cost effective once we turn the switch on at this Cata shaft. So just a couple of points. The plant that is here at the Cata operation, it has a capacity of about 36,000 tons. We're starting the year doing it about 8,000 to 10,000 tons per month, but we'll be ramping up steadily through the whole year to about 20,000, and we will still have considerable excess capacity to expand mining here at Valenciana and at San Ignacio, which is right here. And I'm just going to jump back to a previous slide just to show you where Valenciana is. It's right here. Valenciana has always been a mine without a processing plant. The previous owners, Great Panther Mining, trucked material from San Ignacio to Valenciana to the Cata plant for about 12 years, and that is exactly what we're doing now. And the thing about Valenciana, or pardon me, the thing about San Ignacio, it has excellent grade, and it tends to up the grade both of the operations here and of our company generally. So if you're looking for where Guanajuato is, there is the state of Guanajuato with the city of Guanajuato right into it. And then just in terms of infrastructure, a lot of the junior mining companies will talk about the good infrastructure that they have around. I'm within about a 5-minute drive of a real city where we can source just about anything. And I'm about a 30-minute drive away from an international airport that serves both the city of Guanajuato and a larger city called León, just to our west. And that is an international airport. So I'm about a 30-minute drive away from the international airport that serves cities like Houston and Dallas on a daily basis. A number of centers in Mexico, including Mexico City. There's about 8 flights to Mexico City daily. So in terms of access and accessing our mines and our projects, it really doesn't get much better than that. So I'm just going to switch gears and talk about our other mine in Durango, Mexico at Topia. Topia has been in operation for about 70 years. It was, for about 40 of those years, owned by Peñoles. Peñoles is Mexico's largest mining company, and it controls Fresnillo, which is another public company listed in London, England. Fresnillo is the world's largest silver mining company. So Topia was owned by those guys for about 40 years. It's a great mine. It is extraordinarily high grade. The veins are narrow. Sometimes they're usually about 50 centimeters only across, but very high grade. The resource here is about 1 kilo, 1,000 grams of silver equivalent per ton. So it's very high grade, and in that way we can make good money despite the fact that the veins are narrow. So Peñoles owned this mine for about 40 years. They decided that perhaps it was just too small for a very, very large mining company. So they went about selling it in 1990. And one of their executives put up their hand and said, well, if you guys are going to sell it, I'll buy it. So it was owned privately for about 15 years. And then Great Panther bought the mine in 2005. And if any of you don't know the history of Great Panther, in the last several years, at least, have been very, very difficult for them. Within 90 days of us doing our transaction, buying the 3 mines and 2 processing facilities for only $14.7 million, that company went bankrupt. And the only reason that I mention that is because Topia is another one of these assets which has been materially underinvested in for decades. It is a fantastic mining operation. And in fact, it's only about 25 kilometers away from one of Fresnillo's largest mines called La Ciénaga. we believe, and we're beginning to really get our brains around the idea that Topia may well be a much larger and more important mining district that has been underinvested in by previous owners. So that's one of the things that on the 2023 docket of what we want to do. Here you can see the production facility at Topia. It is old. It is in need of some investment. We plan and have budgeted to, over an 18-month period, to expand production from about 7,500 tons per month to 12,000 tons per month. And in so doing, we will have, because we will be bringing the thing into the 21st century, we'll have better recoveries. It'll be a cleaner and safer operation for our workers. So that investment is starting right now. So 2023, what can you look forward to from Guanajuato Silver? The El Cubo mine ramping up to about 32,000 tons per month. Catha ramping up to 20,000 tons per month. Topia mine expanding from 7,500 to 12,000 tons. Expansion of our tailings capacity. So one of the problems in mining generally in the whole world, but certainly with narrow vein, high grade systems in Mexico, is where do you put the material once you've processed it? Maybe only 20 years ago, I think that the answer from the mining industry was, well, who cares? Let's just put it over there somewhere. But the sensibilities of people in the whole world and people in the mining communities are different today. And they do not want to see giant tailings facilities just around the corner. So one of the key things that we're doing is permitting a dry stack tailings facility. It will cost us some additional money, but it will be safer, cleaner, and it will be able to expand our current tailings capacity at El Cubo to about 15 to 20 years of production. So that will give great certainty about our ability to be able to continue to mine here for years and years to come. In a similar fashion, we are spending $5.2 million this year in exploration. We feel that it's very necessary to be able to replace all of the resources that we are mining. So we're having good luck at a number of different of our operations in terms of exploration, and everyone will see additional. In 2022, we consistently and punctually put out exploration results. You will see that again in just the next few weeks and throughout 2023, some of our exploration successes that we are having. I should say too, just before I go on, the fellow who's in charge of our exploration programs, his name is Ronaldo Rivera. Ronaldo has spent many years in exploration in Mexico, but spent 10 years, the last gig that he had, as exploration manager for Goldcorp in Mexico. And having his expertise involved in operating our programs throughout Mexico is a huge benefit for us. Here's a list of the global resources at all of our operations. The resources are modest, and the reason for that is because of the underinvestment by the previous owners. However, we have a mantra that we will replace 125% of everything that we mine and add to resources. So as we grow production, we will also be growing our resources internally, quarter over quarter and year over year, as you'll see in the future. So look at our share performance. What I will say that in a very difficult market for the last 2 years, as metals prices have generally gone lower, we have, I'll use that term again, materially outperformed our peers. And I think that putting our share performance up against the GDX or the GDXJ or the silver ETF, you'll see that a dollar invested in us has done better than many of our peers. Our current major shareholders. And I just want to comment, oftentimes the CEOs of these companies will go on and on about the number of different people that they have working with them. I'm just going to point out the CV of our president. So I'm chairman and CEO of the company. Ramon Davila is our president and in charge of all Mexican operations. Ramon has the best resume of any miner in Mexico. And that's a bold statement, but I think that I can back it up. He's had enormous success, first at Peñoles, then at Luis Min, which is a smaller mining company here in Mexico. He then went off on his own and developed a mine called La Colorada. La Colorada was sold by Ramon to Pan American Silver, and Ramon worked with Pan American and Ross Beatty at Pan American for 5 years, making that company and that mine into one of the premier silver mines and mining companies now in the world. Ramon then went on to be one of the founders and the chief operating officer of First Majestic. And I'm sure some of you will know that name and that story. When Ramon joined that company, they had 4 employees. When he left, they had 4,000 employees. When he joined, they had no production. And when he left, they were producing 12 million silver equivalent ounces per year. And the only reason that Ramon left was to take on a political role. He became the economy minister for the state of Durango, where he lives and where our mine, Topia, is located. Ramon is 100% involved in our operations. He's here with me right now in Guanajuato. He's, how shall I say, he's 100% invested in the idea of making this company just as successful as his previous company. So I can't overstate Ramon's importance to the growth of our company going forward. So with that, I think we've got just about 4 minutes left for questions. Let me see if I remember which button to look at. So one question here is, Topia has the highest grades and 19.3 million silver equivalent ounces. How much exploration potential is there at Topia to find more 1,000-gram equivalent rock? Excellent question. So when Peñoles mined at Topia for 40 years, the principal vein that they mined at was called Argentina. Lately, in the last 10 years, very little mining has been done at Argentina. Well, our geological staff has uncovered an extension of that vein. It is displaced by about 80 meters by a fault, but it was known by Peñoles drill holes from 40 years ago. So why the previous miners didn't go after it, we don't know. We are constructing a drift, a tunnel towards that vein right now, and we will be mining there starting in May. So lots of potential, and that is just one example of what we currently mine from 7 different veins at Topia. There is an enormous amount of potential going into the future. It simply has to be focused on and invested in, and that is what our 100% Mexican team is doing. There is a question, did cash costs go down in Q4 2022 compared to Q3 2022? Well, we'll be putting out those numbers in just a little while. There are inflationary pressures everywhere in the world, as I'm sure all of the investors here know. Keeping a close eye on costs, though, is what we want to do. So you'll see those numbers out very soon. And I think maybe the best way to answer that question is that our costs compare very favorably, both on an all-in sustaining cost basis and on a cash cost basis, to companies that are much more established and that are larger. So that's what we're trying to do. Do you have planned further acquisitions in the region of Guanajuato? Okay, that is a great question, and I see we're quickly running out of time, so I'll try and answer that one really quickly. There are other mines and mining operations that are either in production or past producers in the city and the region of Guanajuato. We call ourselves Guanajuato for a reason. This region has been one of the great silver mining districts for centuries. When I first got involved in the area maybe 4 years or so ago, what I noticed was that the ownership of all the claims had been sort of carved up and divvied up over the last several decades, and it seemed to me like a perfect example of a place where consolidation in the mining business should take place. So we are absolutely interested in that. Of course, it takes 2 to tango, so the other companies that own assets in our district may or may not wish to part with them right now, and we will only do a transaction if it is immediately accretive to Guanajuato Silver shareholders. So we'll see what the future holds, but certainly we are desirous of doing additional growth in the area, and that could expand to central Mexico, let's say. So I think I'm just about out of time. John, how are we doing with time? Should I go on to a couple more questions? Well, maybe I'll just go on to a couple more questions. Well, there's a compliment from Anthony Fitzgerald, who I know, and he says, "Beautiful silver factory." And thank you very much, Tony. That is very kind. Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Are you planning some circular mining? Reprocess to capture some rare earths, clean up the water, and neutralize tailings. Thank you and have a great day. The short answer is yes. We put out a number of news releases in 2022 regarding a past tailings facility at El Cubo, which actually contains some fairly high-grade silver material. And we feel that we can reprocess that and extract principally gold, but gold and silver very cost effectively. We are doing that, and we're doing that right now. This is something that's been ramping up in a production way for the last 6 weeks or so. So now that we've kind of stabilized production and have that going, you'll see a news release detailing some of that material here in the next few weeks as well. Okay, very good. So I see that it is time to wrap up. So I think those are all the questions that I will answer today. Thank you very much for OTC Capital Markets for hosting again, and thanks very much for all of the investors' time and interest in our company. Thank you again.